Bobcat gardeners. I'm so excited for today's lesson. You know, the secret to a garden, it's the soil. That's why once our cool season crops are done, we're going to take time out to care for our soil. Today, we are going to talk about the 3 main ways that we build healthy soil. These ways are through composting, cover cropping, and mulching. If you guessed, all 3 of these things have something to do with adding organic matter to the soil, you're totally right. There was a time in Oklahoma history when the lack of organic matter in farm soil allowed the wind to blow all the soil away. We will talk about that time and what we learned from it and that we now practice in our garden today. We are also going to do a little planting today. Let's go. Okay, now I'm here by bed 5. To care for our soil, at the end of each season, we are going to remove the old plants and add finished compost to our beds. We do this to replace the nutrients that were used up by our crops over the last season. In this case, it was our winter crops. Here in bed 5, we grew collards over the winter, and the rest was covered with a healthy layer of leafy mulch. You know, gardeners, we like to say that we are building healthy soil. We say this because, believe it or not, garden soil is not just any old dirt. It has lots of amazing qualities that we gardeners must help to build and maintain. Look at how the particles in this soil stick together. There is a gentle gummy quality that compost gives to soil. Soil that has compost in it holds together instead of crumbling into a super fine dust. This is because the soil microbes, which made it, have left behind gummy materials that help particles stick together. It makes soil form clumps that bind together lightly. As the soil forms these nice clumps, it also forms air pockets. These air pockets are wonderful for plant roots, worms, and soil critters. They hold water when it's dry out, and it allows the soil to drain when it rains a lot. Compost helps soil have a perfect structure for a very healthy garden. Speaking of compost, we made our own pile last fall. Let's go check it out. Back in the fall, we learned about building a hot compost pile in the garden. We put organic matter like leaves, food scraps, and grass clippings, remember us talking about greens and browns? Into a fluffy, air-filled pile and added lots of water. Thanks to the work of all of our decomposers, the visible soil critters, and the invisible microbes, over the course of about 2 months, the pile got hot and shrank from about here all the way down to where it is now. What we see in the pile now does not look like food scraps, leaves, and other organic matter we started with. Those browns and greens have been decomposed, and now our pile is starting to look like dark, rich garden soil. Let's take a look inside of our hot compost pile. Our decomposers did a great job. Look, here's one now. Today, even though our pile has broken down a lot, it still has organic matter that could break down even more. Since decomposers like to work in damp environments full of oxygen, we can encourage them to finish off the organic matter by adding more air and water to the pile. Let me start. why is compost from a pile or a worm bin so good for plants? One of the reasons is because it contains nitrogen that plants can absorb. What is nitrogen? It is the most common gas found in the Earth's atmosphere. Nitrogen is a necessary nutrient for plant growth for all forms of life, including us. It is the basis of protein. Even though plants need nitrogen, they cannot absorb it from the air. They need certain decomposers to fix it so that plants can absorb it. Once the bacteria has already made the nitrogen for the plants to use, we call that available nitrogen. So now we're done adding compost to this bed and we're ready to plant our late spring, early summer crop of peas. These peas were grown by Mrs. Dean's pre-K class and they look awesome. I'm so excited to plant them with you all. But first, peas like these that we're growing are a type of legume. Other famous legumes are beans. Peas and beans naturally attract a special bacteria to live in their roots, which are a great fixing nitrogen. When legumes are fixing nitrogen, there are little nodules on the roots that we can see. Because peas do this, gardeners plant them when they want to add nitrogen back into the soil. Peas are a great crop to grow, not only for food, but also to add nitrogen to our soil. Okay, let's plant these peas. Okay, now we are in bed 5 and we've just finished raking some compost into the soil so that the soil is a little bit more fine and easier for little seeds to be planted in. So in our garden, we rarely ever have bare soil so that we can avoid erosion. Erosion happens when soil is lost, either by being blown or washed away. Here in our garden, you'll almost always see mulch or cover crops protecting the soil. This helps us avoid erosion. When a garden bed has produced a lot of food for us, it's used up a lot of the organic matter and nutrients present in the soil. In order to recharge the soil, we let the bed rest by either mulching it or planting a cover crop. For example, here in bed 5, the soil needs more organic matter and nitrogen, and so we are going to plant a cover crop, or more like 3. We have peas and oats, crimson clover, and common buckwheat. So we will plant these 3 cover crops and see how they do in our garden. Later on in the spring, we will eventually turn in the tops of these to add more organic matter back to the soil. So now I am about to plant the common buckwheat cover crop. We can do this just by broadcasting or scattering the seeds on top of the soil. If we were to continually grow food and harvest without stopping to add compost or grow a cover crop, our soil would become dry and brittle and empty of nutrients. If we never mulched our bare soil, it would easily dry out or get washed away. These problems happened to Oklahoma farmers on a very large scale during the era called the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl was whenever the combination of really high winds and drought, which is a period of no rain, occurred. Because farming methods did not put organic matter back into soil, and soil was often bare, tons of the fertile prairie soil just blew away. After the drought, farmers began to employ soil conservation methods on their farms to protect and build their soil. And that is what we do in the garden today. So as we've been talking about, one of the main ways that we make compost is by taking care of worms in a worm bin. Worms are wonderful decomposers, and the compost they make is great for plants. It is called Vermicompost. When you all visit the garden soon, you will get to take a look inside an active worm bin. How exciting! Let's check out what they're eating. This looks like it might be a banana peel. I wonder if I can find any worms on it. Oh, wow. There are several right here. Well, I can't wait for you all to get in here and meet the worms yourselves. They're great friends. Good job today, Bodine Bobcats. Can't wait to garden with you again. Did you know that by being a bobcat gardener, you are a soil protector? You conserve the soil just by helping us out here growing your peas and adding mulch to these beds. Good job, bobcats.